You know, the fun zone is managing resources. It's doing all these different things. It's thinking constantly. It's using the right tool for the job. It's diving into progression. You know, it's what you'll see, shooting weak points of enemies, you know, all these different things. And when they don't play that way, we kill them.
That right there was Hugo Martin, game director of Doom, talking about Doom Eternal's combat philosophy, which I immensely respect for being pure and staying true to what Doom is supposed to be, and not being afraid of prioritizing the art itself and taking the risk that some people might not understand and dislike it. This guy used to say stuff like this.
Or just get good and beat them.
Now I'm going to show you the philosophy of Doom: The Dark Ages.
We've made our combat more approachable and flexible than ever before, with a new difficulty system and sliders that will allow players to tune the speed and challenge of the game to whatever fits them best. You can slow things down or speed them up. It's a Doom for all slayers. Doom for all slayers.
Well, that took a quick turn. Maybe it is just a false alarm going off in my head and I am worrying about nothing. Maybe this is just a marketing strategy. IDSoftware has to understand that when you try to appeal to everyone, you will appeal to no one in the end, right? Let's compare two videos again.
Because if everything works, if you have a kill equation that's like, this gun works in the far away and it works close up. Okay, cool. Like, genius. You know, like, just, you end up with, you know, shoot the guy, shoot things the game, you know, and which, like, that's not a $60 game, you know? And you're not going to be able to hold on to people's attention for more than just a couple of fun hours than when really everything works at every range in every instance, you know?
Seeking out targets and enemy formations along the way to engage with as you see fit, with any gun you choose. With any gun you choose.
Okay, well, that can't be a coincidence anymore. Let me just check one more time.
People, well, what if I like using one gun the whole time? And I would, without trying to be an asshole, I'd just be like, then you're not gonna like Doom. Like, that's it. Because I just don't think that's a good bet to make.
With any gun you choose.
At least he said all Slayers, so that means the hardcore fans too, right? Right? Doom means a lot to me, as I've been a fan since 2016 and played all of the main games, from classic to modern. I have merch, collectibles, posters, won prizes, and I am the guy that tries to convince everyone to play Doom and loves to talk about it. Or the guy that just wouldn't shut up. My channel wouldn't even exist without it. Hell, I would not be the same person if it wasn't for this franchise. This franchise truly changed my life. I'm a console player that absolutely loves challenge and depth in games. Now, do you remember the hardest version of the whole Slayer gate in Doom Eternal before it was made easier again? That type of challenge on nightmare difficulty with all aim assist turned off, with a regular controller, that is my cup of tea. On screen, you can see how much time I put into this franchise. When I found out that Microsoft bought Bethesda and IDSoftware, I was very worried about console exclusivity and what would happen to Doom in general. Many thoughts would race through my head, like Doom turning into a very different franchise that needed to bring as much profit as possible, even if that meant changing core aspects. A game that was very different from the games that I fell in love with. A game that couldn't live up to the quality of the previous one. Doom: The Dark Ages was coming, and the media was treating this game much more negatively, and there was less media and hype to be found in the first place compared to the YouTubers that could not stop milking Doom Eternal. But I did not want my assumptions to have too much influence. I played Doom: The Dark Ages with an open mind, and I enjoyed it. I pre-ordered the game. My rule is never pre-order unless it's Doom, because pre-ordering Doom Eternal was one of the best decisions I ever made. And yeah, I did the same with Dark Ages, and I played it. And now that I played the game, I came to the conclusion that I was kind of right. While I enjoyed the Dark Ages, disappointment is what I mainly felt while playing the game, and I wanted to like the game a lot more. I tried to stay open-minded and have trust, and I definitely wasn't one of those people that wanted Doom Eternal Part 2, because change and variation is good. But now that I played it, I would have rather had Eternal Part 2, to be honest. I noticed that my positive opinions mostly align with the others, because we all know why Doom is awesome, but not all my negative opinions do, as I don't think the game is just too slow or just too easy. So that's why I wanted to share those especially, so expect some heavy critique. By doing this, I hope I will be able to clear the confusion between those that love and those that hate the game. I'm going to share my experiences from release day to this day, so people can understand the bigger picture. Don't take everything I say as my final opinion. This is just how I experienced it per time category. I started playing Doom the Dark Ages on the easiest difficulty, as I did with all the other modern Doom games, so I could truly learn how the game works and master it. And for replayability purpose, as I wanted to play on all difficulties and build up from easiest to hardest. I was surprised and shocked to see it isn't called I'm Too Young to Die anymore, but Aspiring Slayer. I got introduced to parrying, and I really like the mechanic, as it's done with aggression. It's still done with aggression, although I would have liked a bit more unparryable attacks to make the player move and dodge more, and encourage even more aggression. Parrying was not a big part of the other games, but it tests the player on reflexes, so it is a welcome addition for me. The parry window was very generous, but I didn't think much of that at first. I discovered how strong the aim assist was, and that something new got added called enhanced targeting, which basically means you don't have to aim anymore. I like it that they added this for people that find it difficult to do this, and it is only turned on by default on Aspiring Slayer, so the game still expects casuals to aim, which is good. However, I quickly turned these off before I had to throw up. The whole time I was playing, it didn't really hit, and I was waiting when the real fighting would start, instead of throwing a couple enemies at the player. I thought, maybe this game has a really slow start. In some instances you can stand still. Yes, stand still in a Doom game.
Like I was playing in a way that was like meant to make it look cool, and I was weapon switching and doing all these things, but the whole time I was, I'm like, the game needs to make you play this way. Like I'm going to play this way because this is kind of like a touch point for what we hope to achieve, and how the game will naturally make you want to play, where I'm switching and I'm moving and I'm dodging, and you could feel it. You could feel the action, and it looks awesome. Because if it looks fun to play an action game, then it probably feels fun to play an action game. So, but the way I really needed to play was just walk up to everybody and point blank them with a double barrel shotgun. And I had a couple of cuts of that, and I'm like, yeah, we can't do this. Like let's pretend like I'm really under duress and I have to do all these things. Because ultimately that's the game we want to make. The game needs to make you play this way.
The game needs to make you play this way. Then why can I play like this? Or this. Or this. Or this. Or this. When I reached the cosmic realm, I finally had to give in and admit that this is the real fighting. I had not died once, and I wasn't even trying. I was pushing myself to continue, but I got so bored that I gave up on my idea of playing all the difficulties and just played on Nightmare instead. It was so shockingly easy that I felt like I wasn't playing Doom. And yes, I understand that easy is supposed to be easier than harder difficulties, but at least easy in the other games required a basic understanding, were still fun, and offers challenge, as Doom is supposed to do. The following gameplay is played on a custom difficulty setting that is harder than Nightmare.
The bet as a developer is that if I push you into the fun zone, which is kind of this hokey name, but it totally describes like and in the fun zone, there's a variety of different skills.
Fun layers.
Yeah, ways to
rooms.
play. Like, well, things to do. Like, fun zone is like weapon switching, glory killing, doing all the things we want you to do. The bet is, if I make you do this, you're going to love the
Enjoy
game.
yourself.
You're going to love the game. And probably early in development, that's a little bit of a scary bet because people, well, what if I like using one gun the whole time? And I would, without trying to be an asshole, I'd just be like, then you're not going to like Doom. Like, that's it. Because I just don't think that's a good bet to make. Like, on paper, you think, well, we should just let people play the way they want to play. You know, there's really no game that's like that.
Right.
Nothing.
The horrible pacing wasn't helping either, especially of the more open levels.
We can't just make the skate parks, the arenas, the most compelling part of the game this time. Like, we had to make sure that the incidental combat spaces, the spaces between the arenas, was just as compelling, if not more compelling, than the actual arenas themselves. We needed to make sure that every action the player took, even outside of killing people, like just traversing the level, was engaging. So you'll see that the level challenges the player with skill-based kind of traversals that are just as engaging in some cases as the combat.
Walking long distances is definitely worse than the platforming in Eternal. That was still engaging and enjoyable if it was spread out enough. I liked the stuff where you had to shoot buttons while flying in the air, forcing the player to multitask. While navigating these maps, I noticed unpolished aspects, like being able to walk through objects, but also stuff like this. Or this. With these more open levels, the indicator of no return is very appreciated. At least the times when it works. In this footage it's actually shown too late. So yeah, that's handy. I was constantly waiting for the next fight, hoping it would be more challenging, while finding secrets that were so obvious and easy to find that I wouldn't have realized they were secrets if the game didn't tell me. Alright, before I go there, I just want to look for secrets. Jump down here. And... okay, well that was the first secret. That was still pretty easy. But, you know, it's the first one of the levels, so they probably get harder. This is the first time being in the Cosmic Realm. This is about halfway through the game. So yeah. Hold on, just let me get this gold real quick, and then I'll just continue. I'll go through that green circle thingy to the other side, land, and climb this real quick. And let me just check for secrets really quick again. Oh, there's something else. Oh, okay, so I gotta jump down again and then just go through here. Yeah, well, it's still the beginning of the level, you know, so it's probably just a coincidence that I had to do the same thing. The next one will probably be very different. So, let's see. Oh. Okay, so there's some gold and I gotta jump down again. And here I gotta jump down into the water. After throwing my shield, and now I'm avoiding those blocks, and... oh, that's it? Okay. And what about here? I can jump down and grab some gold and... oh, that's the secret already. Okay, so it's jumping down. What about this one? I gotta jump down. A lot of jumping down. I'm starting to recognize a certain pattern here. And then... oh, okay. Another secret found. What about here? I jump down here and... another secret. Okay. Okay, this is the last one of the level, so it's gotta be harder, right? So... okay, what the fuck is this? You can find their exact location on the map. And I thought the secrets in Doom Eternal were bad already, but at least the combat made up for it. Classic Doom did this the best in my opinion. Finding a secret there wasn't always rewarding, but at least they were hidden well and it took some thinking to find most times. Here you can see a good example. Classic Doom now, if you look over here you can definitely see there's something there. A sphere that you can pick up, and on the map you can see it's an area that is enterable. Otherwise it wouldn't be on the map, right? So now I go in this room, I look around, and I can see these flickering lights. And the other one doesn't have that, only that one. These ones don't, and this one does have it. So that's definitely a visual indicator. So when I walk back here, and you listen carefully now. That was an audio indicator. Walking there made the wall lower, so I can enter this area now. And you know that by the audio. That's how you do secrets in a game. You have to figure it out. And by finding that secret and then being quick, I managed to go in this one too. I have to time it. Now I pick up these things and look over there, another passage. And now if you look at the wall, you see this one looks different from the rest, so I can open it. And another secret. I just found 4 secrets. That's how you do secrets in a video game. I wonder where that key is. Let's just check here. For no reason, I just have a hunch. Oh, there it is. Well, maybe finding the gate to open it with is more difficult to find. Oh, never mind. And what about those levers in Doom 2016 that opened the door to a classic Doom map inside the modern game? That was awesome. I assume the secrets are so easy to help with a better pacing with the larger maps. But this could have been easily solved by having search areas on the map instead of just telling the player where it is. Or having a secret indicator in the compass like Doom 2016 had. The same counts for the puzzles in this game too. Way too simple. And when a fight came, I was doing the mission challenges that you would mostly do automatically when playing the game normally anyway, so you don't really have to go out of your way to do them. I do remember one challenge that I had to go out of my way for. I had to pick up a certain amount of ammo, which you get so much of that you never really run out. So I didn't waste enough ammo to do the challenge, so I just shot all my guns empty at a wall several times to be able to do it. So yeah, that was really fun. The rewards for doing challenges and finding secrets are not that big either, as the game is generous with currency and I especially don't care about skins. Switching to Nightmare made it feel better, but it was still not enough. The fights were shorter, less intense and overwhelming, and they slowed down projectiles without really making up for it with the amount of them. Like, what even was the point of that? Projectiles can go through enemies, so you don't see them coming when fighting with one, resulting in some pretty unfair situations sometimes too. And it felt like there were a lot less enemies besides fodder, but I didn't count. Whether it feels that way because there are less or just because they are not aggressive or moving around, it felt underwhelming. The combat often feels scripted, like very scripted. The demons are set up as an army, like Hugo says it, and waiting to be knocked over like bowling pins a lot of the time. Just watch this. Alright, the big bad guy is coming in on a massive hell ship. He's looking very evil. Yeah, prepare for battle. This battle is going to be massive. You see that? You see that ship?
Thank you, Bishop Creed.
Look at it, dude. Look at all of them. Look how many. They're all going to attack at once. And only one guy can stop them. You know who that is. Yeah, you're gonna need that shield. Let's do this. Let's stop this massive attack. Oh. I guess they aren't in the mood anymore for a massive attack. Come on, man, what the fuck? It could be quite brain dead too. Not doing anything at certain distances, or when I left the area the demon was supposed to stay in. Not being able to jump over things to get to the player, and barely moving in general, really. I could be killing all their brothers at the other side of the arena, and they would just stay in their given position, forgetting I exist, as you can see in this video. This especially makes the combat feel underwhelming. It comes across like their AI could not handle the more open area, so they just make them stand still or give them strict borders. I understand that every enemy rushing you in the entire map would not be a good idea, since you'll just walk in an empty map afterwards, but I can't say this is a good solution either. Another reason not to have these big open areas. There are even groups of demons set up for you, waiting to be killed, with either a shield or a ground slam for collecting health. Oh, thank you for spawning there. It does not feel natural. When I fully dismembered a demon, it would follow me and just stare into my soul without attacking me at all, which looks ridiculous. I never felt the need to use the BFC, which I thought I heard was supposed to be hidden in the world, but it is literally an objective, but whatever. And you get 3 shots too. 3. The game is also much less brutal with the removal of glory kills, besides some death from above animations. They said they did this for the flow of the game, because glory killing every enemy got tedious, and not being able to finish multiple enemies in quick succession was annoying. But I do not understand that. Glory killing never got tedious to me, because you only really need to do it when you are low on health, and you get to control which animation you want to see, and if you execute one at all. Plus, they treated the sliders of this game as a selling point, so they could have made a slider for the amount of glory kills too, or make it a different input or button combination from glory strikes, so the player still has the option of seeing the animations and having a quick break in combat. Hey, would you look at that, I finally died. And it took 7 minutes. 7 minutes of gameplay on this difficulty for me to die. And I was almost at the end too. I just had to kill this Pinky and I'd be done. And I'm playing as bad as I possibly can, and I almost made it to the end. That is just embarrassing. Especially on this difficulty. And if I rewind, you can see I died by a hit scanner too. Of course I fucking died by a hit scanner. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the glory strikes, taking a quick break in combat. What you can do now to get a quick break in combat is throw yourself off a cliff. Because you don't get punished for bad movement and falling off, as there is no fall damage at all, and you just respawn. And when you load a checkpoint, the chance exists that the game starts while the screen is still black, meaning you will be dead before you could see. I reported this to Bethesda support, but that is the same as talking to a wall. I also think the game is less bloody in general. Removing a beloved aspect is always a risky move. What I am happy with, though, is the absence of the landscape glitch, like Doom Eternal has, which can range from this all the way to this. And those stupid cartoony stars above enemies to indicate they are dazed, they're gone too, so that is really good. The mech and the dragon sections of the game, they were even worse and ruined the replayability of the game. You press the same couple buttons the whole time and there is not much depth to them. I understand that they are designed as pace breakers, but I don't think that riding a dragon that has no penalties for crashing into walls and just locks onto targets, completely taking away the challenge of aiming and most of your movement, getting my reflexes tested with slow and predictable projectiles, and chasing ships that don't fight back and eventually despawn is very fun. It literally plays like a cheap mobile game. The only thing that is cool is the idea of being in a mech and riding a dragon. Hugo Martin said they decided to focus on the campaign and not add multiplayer or a snap map to make it the best campaign they could. He said they could not have had the mech and dragon sections if they had a multiplayer, but I would have rather had multiplayer than those. You get very little content for the price of this game in general. You just get one campaign that does not live up to the previous ones quality-wise. Its runtime is not super long either, especially excluding the parts that aren't engaging or fun. There's no multiplayer, snap map, horde mode, slayer gates, rune trials, etc. If it couldn't get any worse, there are parts where you literally stand still behind a turret, shooting at enemies, unable to dodge incoming attacks. Wow. Like, what the fuck? It feels like these got added for the sake of we need something different and for more runtime of the game, while forgetting that quality is more important than quantity. Doom should always be an experience where gameplay goes first, but there are story sections that got added, like longer walking and swimming sections that are only there for the story and offer no engagement at all, having effect on the replayability too, of course. Talking about the story, it is pretty bad at explaining what's going on, especially since they put more effort in that with the cutscenes. Like, there are random time skips in the game, and some places that you can see in one of the trailers of Doom the Dark Ages don't actually appear in the game, so I think it is safe to assume that they got cut out for some reason. I wouldn't even be surprised if they get used for the upcoming DLC instead. Video game realism is a very debatable topic. I usually don't like it when something doesn't make any sense to the point that it breaks my immersion. Like the meat hook point in Eternal, which could have had a cool, fleshy, hellish style to it, but it didn't. And these green corpses or statues that you throw your shield at look completely out of place in the Dark Ages, and they always look the same too, no matter what level you're in. And what about breathing underwater? You couldn't breathe underwater in the Ancient Gods Part 1, but other than that, you can breathe in space and underwater just fine. I do really appreciate that this game has a less arcadey art style, without the floating weapon pickups and stuff. The game has this much darker tone, which is good, but the backgrounds are not as striking as they were in Eternal, which is pretty unfortunate. I believe the darker tone and striking backgrounds are both possible. It seems like this game is just more blurry in general for some reason. One thing that did get harder in this game is navigating to read codexes, because unread codexes are not marked anymore, and you don't automatically go to the one you just picked up anymore either. I also feel like the information in the codexes has less depth to them. What happened with Titans can only be killed with a crucible blade? Revenants were humans exposed to urgent energy by the UAC, but the UAC doesn't even exist yet in the Dark Ages. Demons go back to hell when killed, which is why their corpses despawn, but not anymore. And can somebody tell me why the fuck all these alien races speak English with each other? And yeah, I don't take "it's just a game" as an argument. We're talking about art here, and art deserves respect. I know that a lot of games like to reuse or copy certain things to save on development time, but I find this to be extra noticeable in the Dark Ages. Stuff like animations, audio, and details like the same exact corpse hanging on a wall that is on the same spot inside a hell ship that has the same layout as the other ones. I lost count on how many times I have seen this skull reused. And what about this fat guy? He seems to have a lot of brothers with the exact same details and wounds on their bodies. While fighting, I was listening to poorly mixed music that is not that heavy, not that brutal, doesn't build up, and is especially not catchy most of the time. There are some exceptions, but most songs are just generic metal songs that don't have the doom theme and feeling. There are only a couple tracks that I like, and I'm also not a "I only want music from Mick Gordon" kind of person, because the music of the Ancient Gods was good. And I don't like all Mick Gordon songs either.
We really wanted to make something that was like a combat puzzle worth people's time to solve. We said that at E3, and when people play it, it's funny, when they play it, then they it's like a combat puzzle. Right. I'm like, I know, that's what we said. And honestly, even to a certain degree, marketing was a little bit nervous saying the word puzzle with Doom, but it's like, I'm fine with there being an overall puzzle to Doom, as so long as being aggressive is always the number one solution, you know? But we really wanted to make something that engaged the player constantly from beginning to end.
And that engagement is just not present in the Dark Ages. My main problem with this game is not that it's too slow or too easy, because, well, yes, while default difficulties are way too easy and generous, ramping up the difficulty sliders makes it actually really difficult. The main problem is that it is too simple. There is not enough depth and engagement, and it feels hollow. The difficulty in this game comes mostly from the parrying mechanic. So the game tests your reflexes really well, but the rest not so much. Doom should test a lot more than just your reflexes. Spatial awareness, movement, target prioritization, and especially accuracy and exploration, it all took a pretty big step back, which is why it feels that it is just not enough. The gameplay gets more boring and tedious because of this. The same counts for the mech and dragon sections, it's all reflex based. If you had a game like Doom Eternal and added parrying on top of that as a game mechanic, in a balanced way of course, now that would be a fun experience. You no longer have the heart-racing, complex adrenaline rush experience where you are constantly thinking, multitasking, juggling between everything available to you. You're no longer in a race car checking your HUD every couple seconds and quickly making decisions before you crash. I never even had to look at my HUD at all, now that I think about it. I love Doom for not being just a point-and-shoot FPS. But Dark Ages feels like Doom is going more in that direction. Why would you let players choose one melee weapon they can use, instead of giving all three to the player and make the player use each for different situations? Why would you give 4 shield runes and let them only use one, instead of all and giving each a different purpose? It is no longer a thinking man's action game, as Hugo Martin described Eternal. Doom 2016 is quite simplistic compared to Eternal 2, of course, but at least it is still engaging within its simplicity by asking more of the player.
It's interesting. It happens with a lot of games where, like, you and I don't seem to have the same experience with a game. You're like, what the hell? So when I looked at some of the footage, or like even that Polygon footage where it's like Polygon can't do. Yeah. The thing is, like, that's just a player playing the game. Like, if that footage doesn't look great, whose fault is that? Is that their fault or our fault? Like, how come that person was able to succeed playing that way? Like, with one gun, missing 80% of the time, and the game should have killed that person, you know, to corral them into playing it the fun way, the right way. What we kind of noticed was that if you were a skilled FPS player and you picked up Doom 2016, you naturally fell into what we call at the studio like the fun zone, where you're weapon switching and moving and glory killing and managing resources. You're doing all these good things and it feels good. Yeah. If you're not that good at FPS, there were too many unplanned for exploits in the game. Right. Like you could, and a couple of things where it's like, if I master this and kind of just do this, I could kind of beat the whole game with a sort of repetitive style of play. You know, like, for example, like Super Shotgun was kind of the solution to everything. You know, I'd be lying if I said that was part of the plan. Now, it's fun to weapon switch and use different weapons and do all these things. So good players didn't really play that way, but a lot of people did. And I think the 2 people on the Reddit forums, or the reviewer who gave us like a 7.5, which was kind of like, really? You know, like, it's because they played that way. So we really went through and we tried to shore that up, to hold the player accountable, to not let them out of the fun zone. You know, the fun zone is managing resources. It's doing all these different things. It's thinking constantly. It's using the right tool for the job. It's diving into progression. You know, it's what you'll see, shooting weak points of enemies, you know, all these different things. And when they don't play that way, we kill them.
IDSoftware learned from this and improved it in Eternal by forcing the player into the fun zone, instead of letting them make their own fun zone, with restrictions and game rules, of course. This meant there was less risk of them not playing the intended way. They made that brave, powerful, and beneficial decision just to revert it all in the Dark Ages. Even though it could have been an optional feature. If Doom 2016 is make your own fun zone, and Doom Eternal is you can't escape the fun zone, Dark Ages is you don't need to make your own fun zone because that would be too difficult anyway. It really feels like the game doesn't want you to think, but just do. Just move a little, shoot or strike, and parry stuff when you see green. And if you don't like it, just use the difficulty sliders to make what you want. I think too much time went into making these sliders instead of just making a quality and balanced experience. I think a good way to describe it is you are in a race car and you want more challenge, so they tell you to take off your tires and drive faster. That will make it a lot more challenging, sure, but what you really need is a better racetrack and a car with more features that make you think instead of just react. The other problem I have is the mentality change of this game. The game is generally much easier, and if you want a challenge, you have to go out of your way to make it that way. If Doom would have stuck with its get good philosophy, they would have made it that people have to go out of their way to make the game easier. They didn't make this game for the hardcore fans. It feels like they gave in to the noobs instead.
Now, to be fair, the best version of our game this time is Nightmare. Like, I can only play on Nightmare now. Like, it's because it's like a race car game, and once you become a really good race car driver, you only want to drive the fastest car, and you only want to figure out a way to make the car go faster. Like, how do I make this more challenging? You know,
How do you then tell if it's good at the lower speeds?
actually, I can't tell if it's good at lower speeds. So I stress test the game on Nightmare, but then we'll do studio-wide play tests to catch them all. You know, to make sure that like players of that skill level can succeed on the easiest level.
Nightmare difficulty is no longer the true intended Doom experience. I think the game is no longer designed around Nightmare difficulty to balance it as close to perfection as possible and then scale down for the lower difficulty so the noobs can still get what they want. It's not like they care about extreme depth anyway. Just give them a God mode difficulty and they will be happy. The player has to balance the game himself, because this is a game for all Slayers, and we are all equal. Don't get me wrong, inclusivity is a very good thing, but it should not be at the expense of anything else. Well, I don't think that this has something to do with actual politics. I think that this is what the Doom the Woke Ages people were talking about. What they meant is that Doom is going soft. That is also why I am not surprised to see game reviewers rate this game higher than the players, the hardcore fans. Doom is losing the mentality of giving the middle finger to bad, unappreciative players and the way how the gaming industry works in general. I guess I should have seen this coming when I saw that they changed I'm Too Young to Die to Aspiring Slayer, to not break the little hearts of people like Dean Takahashi. You know, the game journalist who couldn't beat the Cuphead tutorial. Remember that? Grow a fucking spine and stop handing out participation trophies. And I also understand that bad players might not fiddle around with the sliders either, so to have default difficulties for them too makes sense. But changing the name to Aspiring Slayer and having all default difficulties be too easy, that just goes too far, man. Taking the challenge out of Doom is like making a horror movie with no horror just to appeal to people who don't like horror. Never diminish your art for people who don't want to understand it, but but accept that some people are just not worthy of your art. I would have made 5 difficulties, Aspiring Slayer and then the normal ones. But they didn't do that. Doom's identity is changing. I used to think that IDSoftware was absolutely amazing and worthy of worship, but I learned my lesson the hard way, and I don't think I will pre-order anything anymore. I changed my view on IDSoftware, because, well, I am forever grateful for Doom's impact on my life. IDSoftware does not have my complete trust anymore, and this is why. While the Ancient Gods controversy was going on, Hugo Martin said this.
We don't have the game set up to be able to allow for a lot of variation from Hurt Me Plenty to Nightmare. Like, I would love to be able to say this stays like this for Nightmare and that's like that on Hurt Me Plenty. The game's just not set up that way. Like, of course it's something I'd like to do. It's not something we could do. So unfortunately, we have to use a bit of a one size fits all, for the entirety of our Doom fan base. I ask, so that's just the dilemma.
20 minutes later, he said this.
So we will revert. Well, I'll look to revert to his behavior to what it was for Nightmare only, and then I think probably his projectile speed needs to be returned to what it was for Nightmare only.
I am sure Hugo Martin is a good guy, but I don't know. Him saying this made it feel that the hardcore fans were not taken very serious, and to this day it doesn't sit right with me. And remember how I said that reporting to Bethesda support is talking to a wall? Well, I found that out a long time ago when I reported the Doom Eternal landscape glitch. After waiting for months, I decided I wanted to have a real human to talk to for easier conversation. So I decided to contact Joshua Boyle with the idea of, why not? The worst that could happen is that he blocks me. And I was surprised to see that he messaged me back. He asked me to delete my footage of the landscape glitch. And that's it. I guess he did not like it that the public saw this. And the glitch is still in the game to this day. And then, of course, what happened to Mick Gordon? You know, the guy who made a whole new music genre called Argent Metal just because of Doom? That got so popular to the point that memes were made and people didn't even know the music was from Doom? You know, everyone's saying that Doom is a music album with a free game included. He was allegedly mistreated and no longer works for id, which is why Dark Ages has generic metal music now. Then the Ancient Gods Part 2 being disappointed. And now Doom the Dark Ages releasing awfully unpolished like this, with 2 days early access to earn some extra cash, is the final straw for me, man. Whether it is related to money, wrong priorities like cutscenes or accessibility, laziness, lack of time, lack of passion, Hugo not being good at his own games, Microsoft and Game Pass, or maybe even use of AI, fuck, I don't know, but Doom might be going Microsoft. After some updates, the game got an overhaul. Some glitches have been introduced too, like the map not showing the correct amount of found secrets. But we also got a customizable horde mode called the Repertorium, and more enemies got added in campaign sections. At first you had to edit the settings and weapons to your liking each time you play the Repertorium, but they fixed that later, so that's good. I also started fiddling around more with the sliders and playing on even harder settings, like 150% game speed, maximum projectile speed, 50% slayer damage, and this made the game more fun to play too in most cases. Especially because I think the default difficulties don't feel good to play. I saw that there is only one slider for resources though, instead of one for health and the other for ammo, and that is pretty disappointing to me. The game has seen more balance changes and is a bit more difficult, so that is an improvement. The Repertorium works well as a test arena, because you can select what enemies you want to fight and in what arena. In these arenas, enemy behavior is easier to study, and their flaws become even more apparent, like being idle from certain distances. You can be fighting and an enemy on the other side of the arena will just stay there until it gets shot. The sliders are inconsistent and don't always work together well depending on the enemy you fight. Here are some examples. Push the projectile speed slider too far and the Acolyte and Cyber Demon ground attacks become basically undodgeable. Here's how that looks in the campaign. The charge up time of the parryable attack of the Revenant and Caco Demon become super inconsistent and so fast to the point you can't react. The Agadon Slash breaks your shield instantly with high damage slider. Combine this with other sliders and the Agadon does this attack when you are right in front of him, so you can't dodge it. It's like they don't have the time to think about what the right attack is. The Baron does this too with the attack where he shoots a row of purple discs at you. He does it when you're right in front of him, which is very annoying. And the Komodo likes to spray fireballs in random directions while running around frantically. So you can't always dodge all of them, especially with high sliders. Caco Demon shield walls pushing you in ways you can't move, due to other enemies shooting projectiles there. Chasing hell ships with the dragon also clearly was not designed for 150% speed, because many times the ships despawn before you can get them, and I think that is because the dragon's turret stats do not change while changing sliders. I'm not sure about this one, but just bump down slayer damage and increase game speed, and then try to take down this hell ship in Spire of Nerethu on a PS5 with a regular controller, and you'll know. And you know those moments where you can ground slam demons from a height? Well, those don't work half the time when you play with less slayer damage. Is this the sacrifice for accessibility? This is the only modern Doom game that, when I die, most times I have no idea what I did wrong, or if I even did something wrong. The game is still not very balanced, and I discovered some more reasons why. One of them is that you can no longer sprint in any direction you want, only forward. I assume they did this so that you will be more likely to parry when looking at an enemy and less likely to die if you're not looking at an enemy by being faster. The problem with this is that you can unexpectedly slow down if you move in a slightly different direction, so you are more likely of being hit. Another one is that the game requires you to fight and parry enemies up close by sending ranged attacks your way that are super hard to dodge, which sounds fine, but other enemies keep attacking you from behind while you're fighting the big one. And this becomes an even bigger problem with maximum sliders. Just kill the weak ones first. Good idea. Sometimes you can't, because they keep respawning though. Other times the situation does not allow it, like the heavy being too much of a pain in the ass. So often you have to make the decision between killing them and getting damage from the heavy to give yourself some more time to 1v1 the heavy, or fighting the heavy and take the risk of receiving damage from the others behind you. Either way, the game is not really designed to be played without taking damage, as you cannot prevent it in some instances, which is pretty bad game design in this case. The second Komodo fight, where you fight a Komodo and a Kako at the same time in a really small arena in the Spire of Narathul, the one where you could pick up gold and I believe an extra life too, a life sigil. That fight is the perfect example of this. They don't mix together. The Kako wants you to strafe left and right. The Komodo wants you to move differently. So it's not a matter of improving yourself in this case, but more of, I hope the enemies will behave in a way where I am able to deal enough damage before I die myself due to the mix of enemies. And many projectiles also lock onto you, and you have to move in a more specific way to dodge them. Meaning that when too many are coming at you from different directions, you will be hit. And now hit scan. Introducing hit scan was a really big risk too. For those who don't know what hit scan means, it's when someone is shooting, the bullets don't have travel time, but hit the target instantly like an undodgeable laser. And I like the idea of how it can push you to move differently, like getting cover from a hit scanner while fighting other demons. But having multiple shield soldiers hit scanning you from a distance is just annoying. You can't stagger them either, like you can with the Arachnus run. Using your shield bash and then super shotgun works best against them, as it is the best answer for basically everything in this game. Just like the super shotgun in Doom 2016. But still, you are going to have to lower your shield at some point when fighting, so you will get hit. Unless you are lucky and there is enough cover, or the hit scanner stops shooting at the same time. They also don't show an indication of when they are going to attack, like they added to the pinky. The player can only prevent being hit by so much, and this means the game needs to be balanced around that. For example, by increasing the health of the Slayer, which makes the game much easier, or decreasing hit scan damage, which makes it less effective. And since you can balance the game yourself with the sliders, you can see why this can become an unbalanced mess pretty quickly. But hey, you have a shield, right? Just block everything. Well, your shield has a health bar and can only take so much damage. The health bar of the shield is tied to the Slayer health difficulty settings. So when you play on max damage and see 3 hit scanners in the open, you are pretty much fucked and can't rely on the shield anymore. The fact that there isn't a separate slider for shield health is mind-boggling to me. The game throws attacks at you that you can't deal with at the same time, so you will have to choose what you want to get hit by. Here you can see that I either need to choose to lower my shield to kill the lost soul and let the hit scanner hit me, or keep the shield up and let the lost soul break my shield. Hit scanners just don't work the way they do in this game. They don't.
Are you frustrated? Be like, yeah, I'm fucking furious. Like, but then it quickly becomes in development like, okay, we should take that out. I'm like, no, like the fact that I just lost is motivation for me to go back because I know what I did wrong and I want to get better. Like, you know, ask the team that lost after basketball if they're frustrated. That doesn't mean they want to stop playing basketball.
Right.
You know, usually it means they want to play more.
How do you ensure that though, right? Because how do you ensure that somebody gets frustrated and they don't just put the controller away?
This is critical. You're hitting on all the stuff that we did. Like this is really top of mind throughout for the last 3.5 years. You have to feel like the game didn't screw you over. You messed up. You have to know why you messed up, where you messed up. And if that's the case and you know it's on you, then you're highly motivated to go back. Like if it's the game that you feel like screwed you, where you were like, what the fuck? Dude spawned behind me, hit scan weapons. Like, what am I supposed to do? You won't want to die. Well, I shouldn't say that, but like you'd be less likely to want to dive in.
This is how I would do it. First of all, I would make them shoot in a certain rhythm so that the Slayer always has an opening to attack no matter how many of them there are. Secondly, I would make it that hit scanners can't damage the shield but only the Slayer when he has the shield down. This way the Slayer is still pushed into changing strategy, but still has the time to find cover so he can lower the shield and fight the other enemies or kill the hit scanner on any difficulty setting. And when the shield breaks by a projectile that does damage the shield, then the hit scanner can fuck him up. This way it is fair, because the player is punished for making a mistake. And finally, I would make it so that the player doesn't have to lower the shield to be able to parry other attacks, because being hit by a hit scanner just because you need to parry an attack is unfair. The only problem is bringing up the shield and parrying is done with the same button, so you need to time it. You need to time when you bring up the shield to perform a parry, which means you need to lower it. And I would change it so that parrying is a separate input, like on controller, pressing L1 for parrying whether the shield is down or up. L1 is now used for the shield throw, so I would put that under L2 plus R1, so the player has to bring up the shield first, just like for the shield bash. This would make hit scanners much more fair, I think, but it still wouldn't solve the situation with a lost soul. So I changed the lost soul to either be a parryable or dodgeable projectile. Or just keep him the way he is, but never combine him with hit scanners. Eventually, many changes have been reverted, like changing that area with the Komodo and the Kako, again in the Spire of Narathul, and making the Kako demon projectile walls go slower so you can easily walk away from them, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, but at least it's less unfair now. Good changes like fixing the SSG bug, making the Creed Maker more difficult and increasing weapon swap speed, but also questionable changes like buffing and then nerfing the Mancubus, and certain encounters in general. These changes show how little confidence they had in the depth of the gameplay loop. It feels like they did not have a super specific set way to play in mind, but release the game and experiment with it until it feels good enough. And good enough means in this case that no one gets the game how they truly want it, but it tries to satisfy as many people as possible. And Eternal had updates too, of course, but not to this point. Eternal felt the same at launch as it does now, because the game was truly meant to be played and mastered that way, with depth, complexity like a puzzle, where each piece fits precisely into each other, forming a smooth and challenging but fair experience. Sure, IDSoftware might not have expected how big quick swapping would become, but my point still stands. Dark Ages feels more like some ideas that were put together and some work better than others. Parrying is a great idea, but with the implementation it meant that the combat took a step backwards to make room for the player to spot and take the time to parry. I also noticed that when multiple enemies are attacking you at the same time and their attacks are out of sync, you are out of luck because your shield sometimes just isn't fast enough to parry at all. This is especially noticeable when multiple barons rush you. I also think I found the reason why enemies are so idle in this game, because if too many attack you at once, this is how that looks. You can't look at all of them at the same time, so you have no idea when to parry. And I think the only thing that can fix that is an indicator on the screen that tells you when to parry, no matter where the attack is coming from. It almost feels like the game was made less punishing just so the game is still playable with the poor puzzle pieces. I really dislike this because I think it should always be clear when you are being punished for a mistake you made, so you can improve and become more skilled. This is also why the Repertorium doesn't always feel good to play. You cannot mix all enemies together, so you need to figure out how to make it enjoyable yourself. And if this game actually is balanced, and it does fit well together, and it comes down to me having a skill issue somehow, which I highly doubt, but feel free to point it out. If that is the case, it is pretty bad at explaining how to play properly. Slow motion is optional now, so that is amazing. You also respawn with more health, which is good in this case because it takes much longer to heal than in previous games where you could do some glory kills and be fine. It went from being able to die really quickly and heal really quickly and being at the edge of your seat to die slowly but heal slowly. The music mix got improved. Music sounds better, but still clearly starts when you walk through invisible walls and stops when you walk back. Just like enemies that will stop attacking you when you run out of their zone. I also had an instance where I went to a puzzle area, but the combat music kept playing. Encounters can be inconsistent too, with more enemies spawning than other times, or some getting out of their zone and glitching out. And wow, how little media content there is about this game still baffles me. People say this game is pretty much dead. Sure, some people might say Doom Eternal had the whole COVID situation to its advantage, but it's not like Doom 2016 died off this fast either. But yeah, I've been talking for a very long time now, so it's time to wrap things up. If I make another video about the DLC, then I will put it as an end screen in this video. And if you want to discuss this topic about Doom the Dark Ages or other topics with me or other people, feel free to join my Discord, the link is in the description. And yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you very much for watching. Hail.